So they say that you can't use of creativity. The more you use, the more you have. But do you think that's the case for CEOs? We're about to find out. Welcome to today's episode of the Women Series, where we capture developments and stories that impact women. I'm so hyped for today's episode. You don't know why, but you're about to find out why I am seriously hyped for today's episode. Just like we started last week, this is the Women CEOs series, and I'm speaking to a creative person today. We hardly find this on the show, right? I know. Well, I got you. I bring you the best guest. I hook you up with the best guest. And that's exactly what I'm doing about today. I have with me Tunrayo Akinseye, the CEO of Licious Dessert. And she's such a fantastic human being. I mean, she's had to say a lot of things off camera. And trust me, I'm going to bring out all of those things she said behind the cameras. I'm about to bring them. Of course, she can't just say all of those things off camera and don't bring them here. We are about to say that. Hello, Tunrayo. It's such a great time meeting you.
How are you? I'm good.
I mean, it feels like we started the show like a while ago when we had like our chit chats, and now we're about to bring it on. But let's start on this note. Creativity, they say, is mostly concerned. I mean, the business of art is mostly concerned with creativity and innovation, which of course that is your own field. That's your domain space. I mean, what do you think creativity is in today's business, and especially for you in the business of art? What do you think creativity is?
First of all, my art of choice is baking.
Yeah.
You already know that.
Yeah.
So I'm a cake artist, I'm a business person, I'm a innovator, I would like to say. I like creating new products and just playing around with my flour, sugar, butter, and eggs and all that. So that is my niche, so to speak. You can look at creativity in my space from two angles. Okay, first of all, you need to be creative to create a cake. I mean, creativity is all about creating, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the design elements, we always say the eyes eat before the mouth and all that. So the design element is so important in cake making. But having said that, you don't need to have such a high level of creativity to be in the baking space, okay? Because baking is also a science. It's finding out how to merge flour, butter, sugar, eggs to create something that is pleasing to the palate and all that. So once you can get that science out of the way, creation as it relates to cake making is just a niche, so to speak. We have people who are not creative in baking, and they run very, very successful cake businesses. There's also the business angle, which I believe takes probably about 60% of the chunk, because we're creative and you don't know how to handle your business. You are just a hobbyist, let me put it that way. So yes, I'm creative. I have a lot of business acumen that is needed to grow a business, and that's about it.
Interesting. We're about to get back to what I said that she has been saying before now, but then let's go on. Now, they say creative thinking is important in any organization, name it, whatever it is, even in as serious as finance can be, it is important, but it is often overlooked in one of the most important places, and which of course is where you come in as the CEO. Now, have you ever had to worry about your creative space? Have you ever had to think that, oh, it is dwindling, or you've got to cringe and be like, I'm losing touch, because you have to worry about other things aside from the creative space? Yes, exactly. Have you had to worry about that?
Yes. An artist never really loses touch. Okay, it might dwindle a little bit, but you can always conjure that spirit back. You understand? Yes, sometimes you get very overwhelmed with finance and running a business and running multiple locations. I don't have multiple locations, but whatever tangent your business takes, sometimes it just pulls you away from that creativity, just putting a bit of your spirit into your product. And that is where structure comes in, because you have to be able to pass on that feel, that touch, that creativity to your staff. They have to, these are like your should I use the word minions? They have to be a part of you. They have to sync and jive with your flow. Sometimes you might
they have to sink into the vision.
Yeah, they have to, certainly. The way I operate my business, I am not. There are a lot of people who are a whole lot more creative than I am. The cake artists, sculptures, and stuff like that. I don't do all that. I like doing things and doing them in mad multiples. But as it relates to creativity, I want to be able to, whatever I know, I want to be able to teach it to my staff, and they've got to be able to recreate it just as much as I can. Okay, so that makes it easy for me. Okay, so my job is basically to create. We're using a lot of that word, create.
Yeah, of course. I mean, talking about creativity.
Exactly. So my job is to create a concept. For instance, I like naming them. I call them my babies. So I come up with a cake, I name it, and you've got to be able to replicate that. Okay, I don't have that stamina to be the one doing every cake. You understand? So I just ensure that my people can replicate that, and then they go with the flow. Basically,
that's interesting.
So
I mean, you set the pace, and then they move on.
Yeah, I truly don't market anything that they cannot handle without me being physically involved.
Now, apart from your creative angle, we'll have to digress a little bit. What other parts of the business do you have to worry about? Do you have to worry about the administrative side? Are there other places where you have to worry?
Numbers. In fact, today, I went to purchase this really big white chalkboards in the admin section, and it's going to be in my office as well. You've got to have your eyes glued to your numbers. You've got to make sure that you are not just breaking even and not just making cakes and churning them out, but you've got to make a profit. And you can't do that without keeping your eyes on the figures. So that aspect of my business is so crucial. We're constantly, tweaking, sales. You can't, especially for a baker like me who's always boasting that a baker must never be broke, because there's just so much you can do in the baking space. Do you understand? So I'm the creator. Do you understand? I create, but at the same time, I have the finance department is like my top department here.
Yeah. So the other time you were speaking about your employees and how you try as much as possible to make them recreate and sync in line with your vision. But in terms of their own personal growth, do you ever get worried about what if they have other ideas and want to sync into yours?
They can't communicate.
They can't
communicate. I've had several times when maybe I disengaged from a department for so long, and by the time I step back in, something has changed. I'm like, what happened? Yeah. Sometimes it's even for the better. They've adjusted something for the better and all that. But I flip at times like that because communicate. If you find that adding 2 extra teaspoons of this ingredient makes it better, I have to know. You can't just adjust on your own. You understand? So yes, they are very free to relate with me and every other person in management, so to speak, and let us know. Yeah.
Last week we learned about networking, and of course this week I think one key point you've mentioned as a CEO is the part of communication, which of course helps the development of the business. And I hope you're jotting things down. I mean, she doesn't need the vital points. Communicate. Now, the business of bakery in Nigeria, or the market, so to say, is quite large, and the market seems to be an interesting one with new bakers sprouting up daily. Now, what do you think you've done to still be in the business that's kept you in the business afloat for like over years? I mean, let people know how many years you've been in the business first off.
I've been in businesses forever.
Okay, so now this brings me back
formally 18 years. This is my 18th year.
How?
I'm really young.
How?
I keep saying it. I have to put that plus there. I'm a little girl, but I have been in business for 18 years. Yes.
How did you eventually? I think that's like the only question I didn't ask you initially. How did you know? Like, what were the things you saw that made you believe that? Because a lot of times it's very difficult for you to find the path. I mean, it's very difficult for you to find a vision and say. Some people find it easy. I think it happened for you quite easy, quite early. How did you get to know? Some people, they must have gone from one space to another space to learn from one thing to another thing. But for you, I mean, you were saying early in secondary school, you even knew, like you were so sure. What were the signs you saw?
Okay. This is a part of the gist that I have said so many times. So it's going to be like repeating myself. But apart from, let me just say it was divine. Okay, divine in the sense that I was led from a very early age. I didn't know back then that this was the leading of the Holy Spirit. But if I pinpoint the areas in my life that interest got sparked. Do you understand? There's just so many instances. Like my mother being a home baker and she bakes and all that. So I've seen that from a very early age and I was always interested and always with her. Instances where I go to an auntie's house who's like, she bakes for the whole country, and I was so intrigued and so amazed, and that was like a jaw-dropping experience for me. And I wanted it so bad. And I'm talking about at the age of, this was probably, I was 8, maybe 10. I wanted it so bad. I just loved the whole vibes of breaking eggs and whatnot. To the extent that my parents actually said, okay, maybe we'll be going to see this auntie on weekends, maybe you just hang out with her and all that. But then again, I come from a family that's extra supportive. I don't think you can find a family more supportive than mine. From the cradle, literally. Like my parents, I don't know how those people raise their kids, honestly. They literally find something, and this is how they were with my elder ones as well. They find you loving something and they throw their weight behind it. They encourage you. Their friends come over and they're like, oh, try to bake the cake, you have to try it and stuff like that. That was that whole warmth.
That's quite supportive.
Yeah, that whole warmth and interest kept pushing me on. Even when I was in school, they allowed me to trade. I remember there was some not inter-house sport, maybe literary and debating stuff. And I had my clique of friends and we approached maybe the person in charge, and we wanted to sell chin and meat pie, and so we'd never done it before. Do you understand? We're little, we're like 13, 14-year-olds here and all that, and they gave us a contract, to do big pie, to do this and that. And then they all came to my house and we kind of fumbled and did some mishmash chin. But to show you that the interest of baking and buying and selling has always been there and it's always been encouraged. I made mention earlier when we were just behind the scenes that I didn't do home economics. I wasn't so interested in all the other the theoretical aspect of it. I just wanted to know how this woman was baking. So I was in technical drawing class, but I was still tugging at the apron strings of my home econs teacher, going to her, watching how she's doing her stuff and asking her if she could coach me off school hours and things like that, So the interest has always been there. I remember my parents, I can go on and on. Do you have the time? Do you have the time? Honestly,
that's quite interesting for you to have known like early enough, and you've run through it.
Bang from secondary school going into the university, it was food. Which school is teaching baking? Which university has any baking? We didn't find.
Eventually, you said you studied business administration. Eventually, did you think that there was a point where you needed to go to school to learn the art of baking eventually?
I knew I was going to.
Yeah, eventually.
I knew I was going to. I remember when I got into school, okay, we're doing business admin, okay, let's see what they're all up about with this business of everything. I did diploma and then I went into year 2 and I traveled for probably summer holidays and I told my parents that I would like to do short courses, on baking, and I think it was more of flour making, Squire's Kitchen and all that. I came back from Squire's Kitchen and I said, look, I need to find a job. Classes, yes, don't worry, I'll do that and I'll pass, don't worry, but I need to find a job. So my first employment was at a bakery then in Unipan with then Dr. Robert. So it was like Lagos' biggest, finest baker, so I was really, really privileged to have worked with him probably all through my Unilag days. It was going to lectures, going to work, and then selling cupcakes in Amore-McKim. So that was my cycle. Right. Basically, yes. Yeah.
Now you're an experienced person in this in this business. Now, what are the risks? How would you even describe the risk involved in starting a bakery business in Nigeria?
Risk?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, apart from, you see, cake is such is known by all, is appreciated by all. So I'm not going to start encouraging anybody by focusing on risks, because I believe that if you come up with an outstanding product, okay, that has the right visuals to match and all that, people will buy. Okay, now whether that buying lasts because of how you deal with your business is a different case entirely. But it's such an easy business to start. I mean, like, you literally can come out tomorrow and say that I'm a baker. Once you have a right recipe and right visuals, and you're able to even market it right on social media, baking is like a 24-hour project as far as I'm concerned. Now, handling the business aspect of it is where we sift the wheat from the shaft, you know. So yeah, that's it.
Now, for youngsters, I mean, young startup business owners in this same business, what's like, from your own experience, how would you even advise them? What's like the very much important thing you would like them to do?
Don't rush it. You see, baking business is not like a get rich quick type of thing. You've got to be passionate.
Really?
No, it's not, because you have to invest in a lot of equipment and all that is tasking. You know, you have to try and get your clientele and identify them, and you know, it takes a while to grow a successful business. You understand? But what keeps most businesses or most bakeries on the right path is your passion. Okay, so even when it's not quite going well, you're still there. You still just want to give your customers the best. The love for your customers, you know, you're constantly tweaking and reviewing just to make sure that you are selling right. So it's really, it boils down to your passion. You've got to love what you do. You've got to completely love what you do. Yeah.
That's interesting. And on that note, we are going to draw the curtains for today's episode. You have to completely love what you do.
Yes.
I mean, that's like a good way to end this episode. Thank you very much for coming.
Welcome.
I mean, I enjoyed myself.
I did too.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Women Series. If you've got questions, you've got comments, you'd like to reach out to Licious Desserts through me, I mean, reach out to me at Ayomide.Oguntoye at crochetedge.com. Please follow us on all our social media platforms showing on the screen. To read more of our news stories and watch our videos, log on to www.crochetedge.com/webtv. And until next week when I come your way again, thank you for watching.